especially when you compare him to some of the other things going on in there. If you go inside, you might instantly get a toothache. Strangely common phenomenon that nobody really understands. It should go away on its own after a couple of hours. If you do go inside, you'll almost definitely see me sitting behind the counter, because I am the only full-time employee, and I'm almost always here. You may catch me reading a book, because for some reason the internet doesn't work way out here, and cell phone service is dicey on good days and non-existent on most. If you need to make a call, you can leave and go up the hill a ways, preferably back towards town, because the other way will take you out to the woods, and you don't even want me to go into all the reasons. That's not a good idea. Or you can pay me 25 cents a minute and use the store's landline. That arrangement was cooked up by the owners, and they have to actually enforce it because they do check the phone records. Yeah, I'm sorry. Now, while you're here, don't be offended if I don't strike up a conversation, because if I'm completely honest, I don't always know for sure if everyone that comes through these doors is real or not. And if I had to acknowledge everyone in that place that could be an actual person, I'd lose my mind. We don't need any more of that going on around here. I guess the point I'm trying to make is this. Weird things happen to me working at this shitty gas station at the edge of town. I wish I could easily decide what was the weirdest thing that ever happened to me, but I can't. There's so many. I've seen a total of 4 coffins inside the store on 3 different occasions. I met at least a dozen people wandering back into town from the woods claiming they'd escaped aliens or a government conspiracy or cultists. And they had no money but needed to make a call. And could I please just let them use our phone before they find them? But rules are rules. I'm not going to lose my job just because you didn't escape captivity with a little bit of pocket change. Then there's Farmer Brown. Yeah, that's his real name. He got mad at us and complained about the bulk feeder that we'd been ordering for him. He insisted something was wrong with the product because all of his animals suddenly had human faces. We settled with him by charging a significant discount on his next couple of purchases. He stopped coming in one day, and they found him, what was left of his body, inside a bedroom at his farmhouse, one that had been locked on the inside. As far as I know, they still haven't figured out what happened. Anyway, I guess I could tell you a story or two, but first, I need to get ready for work. See, at the edge of our town is a shitty little gas station. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and sometimes longer. If you were to go inside, you'd probably see the tired cashier sitting behind the front desk doing his best to mind his own business. He's real. You may also see someone else. You may also see something else. If you are curious about the reality of anyone or anything else, including yourself, inside that small ammonia-scented flickering fluorescent collection of off-brand junk food, dirt, 4 walls, and roof, may I recommend that you follow the cashier's lead and mind your own business. I've been working at that gas station almost non-stop since I graduated high school. At this point, I doubt that I could quit if I wanted to. But enough about me, let's get back to the interesting things, the gas station. I spent a decent amount of time yesterday at the start of my shift trying to decide which story would be worthy of being my first to document to the world. And any time I tell someone outside the gas station anything about what happened therein, I know what to expect. People don't believe it, or people don't want to believe it. Imagine the difficulty that I had trying to call the sheriff's station to explain that half a pig broke into the store and is currently running amok, breaking things and screaming with the voice of an old woman. Yeah, I meant half a pig. Yes, a pig. The front half. No, this isn't a joke. I'm at the gas station. What do you mean, which gas station? The shitty one on the edge of town. You must be new. Can I please talk to someone else? And she finally put me through to Tom. Tom is the sheriff's deputy. The one that drew the short straw all those years ago and had to come out to the gas station for the first time, back before his hair was all white. He's been in enough times to know that all I have to say when he picks up the line is, "It's half a pig. It won't stop screaming and I can't catch it." And he grunts, mutters something about being pretty frickin' weird, and then he goes out to help me catch it. But Tom's a good guy. I asked around, but nobody knew where the pig had come from. This was back when Farmer Brown was still alive, and he came down to take a look and provide his expert opinion. According to Farmer, the pig had somehow been chopped down the middle, but miraculously none of the important organs were hit. Nothing supernatural about it, just really unusual. It stayed at the local elementary school as part of the mascot for the summer before a scientist and his team from somewhere up north offered the school $1,000 to let them take it. For science, I suppose. Anyway, I don't mean to ramble, but my point is that it's hard to believe some of these stories if you haven't been inside the gas station at least once. Maybe you have. I mean, we're the only gas station for miles. We're close enough to some big crossroads. If you've ever been out driving in an unfamiliar part of the country and find yourself lost, it's not impossible that you could have found yourself in my door. Maybe looking to top off your gas. Maybe to ask for directions. If you have a strange memory of a weird place that somehow doesn't seem to fit with the rest of your memories, then there's a chance we've actually met. Back to last night. I was sitting behind the counter with a pen and a book of receipt paper, trying to remember the strangest thing that had happened to me. It still falls within the realm of believability. I've had plenty of things that happened to me that were strange, but so unbelievable, I won't even waste anyone's time ever trying to tell them. I call those the try and forget stories. When Carlos interrupted my concentration. And Carlos is one of the part-timers at the gas station. We have a long list of part-time employees. The owner likes to hire transients, drifters, hitchhikers, passersby, and runaways. People looking for work, at least for a few days. I try not to get to know the part-timers. They come and go after a few days or sometimes a few weeks. Rarely long enough to form any kind of meaningful relationship. But then there's Carlos. Carlos has been working here for almost a year now. He started as a part of the prison work relief program, unloaded trucks twice a week. He was the only one of the 12 prisoners that didn't disappear during a freak snowstorm last December. But that's none of my business. Carlos did his time, and when they released him, he came to work here, cleaning the store and unloading trucks. He comes in 6 times a day for each of his 30-minute shifts. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm not exactly sure what he does during those shifts. The store is never clean, and trucks only come twice a week, exclusively during the daytime hours, as per an arrangement following the incident. Maybe one day I'll ask Carlos what he does for the owner. All I know is that he's the closest thing to a friend that I have here. And when Carlos approached me at my register last night, I knew something unusual was going on. He was sweating bullets, pale, and on the verge of passing out. He kept glancing back at that man in the suit that had wandered into the store and was standing next to the frozen drink machine. He told me that he needed to talk to me now. I told him go ahead. But he refused to say anything unless I followed him into the freezer. I usually hate to leave the front of the store unwatched. We have the occasional shoplifter. Plus there was that one time that Rocco got in and made off with 2 cases of cigarettes, but Carlos seemed serious. So I made an exception for him. And once we were in the sub-freezing safety of the walk-in cooler, Carlos asked me if I had seen the guy in the suit. I said, yeah, I saw him. He asked if I knew the guy. I said, yeah, I'd seen the guy around town. His name was Kiefer. He was running for some kind of office. I can't remember which one. And he stopped by the gas station every now and then. He drove an old black SUV that only took premium. I didn't know much of him from in town, but he was a local, definitely a local. His picture was framed in my high school's trophy case for one of those sports competitions that he had won years and years before I got there. We only have so many things to be proud of, I suppose, but I knew of Kiefer. We weren't exactly acquaintances. I told all this to Carlos, who shook his head and said, no, that can't be Kiefer. And so why not? Carlos told me, that can't be Kiefer because Kiefer's dead. I killed him 2 days ago. His body's in the trunk of my car right now. And that's where things started getting weird. I really don't want to do this. I recognize how awful it is to pause a story at a place like this, but I'm about to head back to work, and I only just now was taking my lunch break, and I came all the way down here to the library to document the last things before I forgot. But I still have to eat. I have to change out those dirt-covered clothing before I head back. Did a lot of digging last night. Plus, I don't want to leave the part-timer alone with all those lawn gnomes until we know exactly what's going on. Oh, I forgot to mention the lawn gnomes. Okay, so I'm so scatterbrained right now. Like I said, it was a very strange night between the hand plants, Farmer Jr., and that cultist that wouldn't leave me alone. I hardly had any time to collect my thoughts. And of course, there's the Carlos situation. I promise, I'll come back. I'll tell you all about it. But first, I'm going to grab some coffee. There are times when this world drifts so close to the fabric of reality that I can hear something calling me from beyond that veil. Sometimes when I get too close, I can feel that thing on the other side tugging at the corners of my mind. I'm worried about Carlos. He doesn't seem to be taking this so well. In case you don't know, I work at this shitty gas station at the edge of our small town, and weird things have been happening for as long as I've been there. I only started to tell some of my stories, and if you haven't caught up yet, I'd like to invite you to check out part 1. Now, when I returned to work after my post yesterday, I was delighted to find a stack of receipt papers sitting neatly in the register counter, with notes written in my own shaky handwriting. I don't remember writing these notes, but then again, I don't remember a lot of things. It is possible that I'm worked too hard, or maybe the fumes coming from beneath the gas station are playing tricks on me, or perhaps it's just another side effect of my condition. At any rate, I'm not one to look at a gift horse in the mouth, or any other animal in any other orifice, for that matter. Admittedly, my handwriting isn't the best, and at times, the scratches on the receipt paper become nearly illegible. So if anything herein seems unbelievable, it's probably because I copied it wrong. Now, with that in mind, this is my best effort at the transcription. 7 o'clock. It's getting dark earlier these days. 7:30. Farmer Jr. came into the gas station tonight, asking about the hand plants. I told him that they weren't there anymore. He left his phone number scribbled on the back of a coupon for 15% off bulk pig feed from an online retailer. I think he's trying to send me a message. 9 o'clock. I think maybe some kids are trying to play a prank on me. I found a lawn gnome behind the pork rinds. I don't think much about it, and I put him in a box behind the counter. But then I found another matching lawn gnome in a soda case. I added this one to a box as well. It wasn't until I noticed the third and fourth lawn gnomes that I started to suspect something. I had taken out the garbage and found gnomes perched atop the branch of a tree next to the dumpster, staring down at me like gargoyles. I used a chair and broom to knock them down. I put them in a box with the other 3. When I got back to my desk, I found the note on my chair written in red ink. It said simply, "I'm in the walls." I don't know who wrote it. The paper smells like oranges. Plumeria. 10 o'clock. There's a strange scratching noise coming from the tiles above the cash register. I fear Rocco and his brood may have infiltrated the building again. 11 o'clock. Farmer Jr. called the store. He asked about the hand plants. I assured him they weren't there anymore, and if they ever showed up again, I would call him. I think he's starting to suspect that I'm lying. 12 o'clock. One of the cultist recruiters wandered in from the community in the woods. They hate it when I call them cultists. I know the recruits aren't supposed to interact with the outside world, but from time to time, they'll sneak into town, never any further than this gas station, and they'll buy a couple cigarettes. They aren't supposed to try and recruit new members until they graduate to the honorable senior cultist status, but this one isn't a very good cultist. I know they aren't supposed to have names, but I'm going to call this one Marlboro. I'll let you guess why. Well, Marlboro stayed in the store for at least half an hour trying to convince me to go back to the compound with them. They hate it when I call their home a compound. He tried to appeal to my logical side, but then I let him know politely but firmly that I was not interested in logic. I can't remember when I left. 2 o'clock. I found myself digging again. Sometimes on slow nights I let myself drift. My mind goes somewhere, and when I come to, I wonder where I was just now. Who was that controlling my body while I was gone? My body did those things I've done so many times before that I guess it's learned to do without me. My body restocked the cigarettes. My body rotated the frozen drink machine. My body scraped the mold off the bottoms of the ice buckets. My body emptied the rat traps, and somewhere along the way my body found a shovel, went out back, and started digging a hole. Actually, I shouldn't maybe say my body started digging. I have been, or rather, my body has been digging this hole off and on for the last few months. Usually I come to after a few shovelfuls. This time I added another foot deep before I snapped back to reality and asked myself, what the hell am I doing? 3:30. I just noticed a door at the end of the hallway past the walk-in cooler. How long have I worked here and never noticed that door before? It seems disappointingly ordinary as far as doors go, except for the fact that it's warm to the touch and it feels like it's vibrating. I tried the handle, but it's locked. And when I go back to my register, I noticed a man in a trench coat standing outside beyond the gas pumps, just outside the reach of our lights, dangerously close to the road. I can't tell if he's looking at me, or if he's looking past the building at the woods on the other side. I wish he wouldn't stand there like that, still, with his arms reaching down past his knees. Scratching against the tiles on the ceiling over the counter is getting louder. 3:45, a man came into the store rolling a large white ice chest behind him. He had sunken blue eyes, wiry hair coming from his nose and ears, long bony fingers, and paper-thin skin revealing every blue and green vein beneath the translucent dermis. He wore a bowler cap and smelled like milk. I had definitely never seen him around before. He asked if we would be interested in partnering up with him. He sold ground meat at discount prices, but I told him our store doesn't do well with the fresh food category, recommending he try his hand at making jerky. And before he left, he scooped about a pound or so of raw ground meat from the ice chest into a piece of parchment paper and gave it to me as a sample. Once he had left, I took the meat to the cooler, where I found another lawn gnome waiting for me. I put the gnome into the box with the other 7. 4 o'clock. Carlos just told me something very strange about Kiefer. 4:30. There was a kid named Spencer Middleton who went to the same high school as me and Kiefer. Spencer was just a year ahead of me, but looked much older and acted much younger. I live in a small town, and small towns get bored. For entertainment, some turn to gossip, some turn to sinister pastimes. The latter often fueled the former. There were rumors around town that Spencer liked to torture and kill animals. Rumors that Spencer's parents and siblings always locked their bedroom doors when they went to sleep at night. The rumors didn't slow down any after the fire at Spencer's house, when Spencer was the only one to escape unscathed. I once saw Spencer gleefully stomp on a lizard, throw his head back, and laugh. Some short time after his house caught fire for the second time, Spencer lost town. The story went on that he'd gone off to join the army. I don't know what to think about that, so I simply didn't think about that. I would have been perfectly happy to never think about that. But after all these years, I'm forced to. Because Spencer Middleton just came into the store and ordered a cup of coffee. He's sitting in one of the booths, talking to Kiefer. Marlboro's back. He asked if I could spare some time to talk about his fake religion. I hate it when I call it a fake religion. And I told him that he had to leave. He seemed upset. 4:45. Spencer and Kiefer sat around for a while and didn't buy anything but 2 cups of coffee. When they finally left, I let Carlos know. He had been hiding under a blanket in the walk-in cooler, although I can't really understand why. Carlos explained to me exactly what happened. He had finished his shift a couple nights ago, just left the gas station when he saw Kiefer's SUV pull over into a ditch at the bottom of the hill. Carlos, being the good guy that he is, decided to check and see if Kiefer needed any help. He says that when he pulled up and got out of the car, he could hear what sounded like a loud crunching noise coming from just beyond the tree line. Carlos went to investigate. That's when he saw something. When I asked Carlos what he saw, he just started speaking Spanish in a fast panic sort of way. I don't speak Spanish, but I nodded along empathetically. The only word I could pick up was strega, which is the name of a liquor we carry. Whatever it was that Carlos was saying, it made him race back to his car as fast as he could and back out quickly, without looking. And that's when he ran over Kiefer. And Carlos is a good guy, but he was in a bad situation. He stopped long enough to get out, check on Kiefer, and confirm that he was definitely dead. There was nothing he could do to change that fact. It was an accident. Carlos was on parole. There was that thing in the woods, and Carlos had to make a decision, so he heaved the body into the trunk of his car, and he drove off. Carlos took me to his car and showed me the body. I can confirm 100% that it was Kiefer in the trunk of his car, not just because of his unmistakable face, but also because of his phone and wallet that were in his pocket. 5 o'clock. I finally got tired of the scratching and pulled our ladder out of the storage to see what the raccoon was doing up in the ceiling, but when I pushed back the tile, the only thing up there was another gnome. That makes a dozen so far. 6 o'clock. The man in the trench coat is still outside. The cultist came back in, demanding an audience with me, insisting that if I would just listen to him, I would see that his reasoning was superb and flawless, and that I would be a fool not to join him in the perfection of logic and nirvana that is his belief structure. I agreed to listen to his pitch, if he would agree to ask the man in the trench coat to leave. Our hasty verbal contract in place, I steeled myself to listen. Honestly, he did make a few good points. But I suppose it's to be expected from a viral thought experiment strong enough to convince perfectly normal people to abandon their real lives and go live in that commune in the woods past the shitty gas station on the edge of town. They call themselves mathematists. They believe that humankind exists to fulfill two moral imperatives: to decrease suffering and to increase happiness. A successful life increases happiness more than suffering. A decent life decreases suffering more than happiness. How good a person is can be determined by the spread between the happiness increased and the suffering decreased. Obviously, if the individual has a negative spread, that is, if they've increased happiness less than they've increased suffering, or if they've decreased suffering less than they've decreased happiness, then that means, very simply, that the individual is bad. Therefore, if an individual causes a tremendous amount of happiness and suffering, one can simply determine which was higher, and use this perfect rubric to determine whether the individual was good or bad. It's simple, right? Well, the mathematists believe that the world has been going on about good and bad in the wrong way. For eons, we've been attempting to increase happiness, when instead we should have been focusing on decreasing suffering. As happiness is a fluid concept, and the more happiness you create, the harder it is to sustain, as happiness has a clear set of diminishing returns. Suffering, however, is constant. Suffering results from happiness coming to an end. Suffering is pure and eternal. For a mathematist to be supremely good, they must simply end all suffering. That is why the mathematists are working on a bomb to destroy the entire planet. By ending all life on Earth, they end an infinity of suffering into the future. With every life they avert, an entire lineage of people that would be born into a life of suffering will no longer. Every death is a preemptive mercy killing. Every happy moment that will no longer occur pales in the face of all the sad moments that are likewise prevented. And so, as Marlborough explained, their murder cult believes that killing is a kindness. I told him that his ideas were stupid, and he was stupid, and that now he had to go tell the man in the trench coat to go away. 6:30. The phone rang. Now this is strange for two reasons. First, because it was not the landline, it was the cell phone, even though we don't get cell phone service out here. And second, because it was the cell phone. The one I took off Kiefer's body. Now, I'll admit, I was stuck in a bit of a moral quandary ever since Carlos confided in me. On the one hand, Carlos had killed someone. On the other, it was an accident, and Carlos's parole officer may not see it that way. I thought that I would have more time to figure this out, but when the cell phone started ringing, I knew I had to make a decision. I answered it. I didn't speak at first. The voice in the line was one I recognized. "You have something that belongs to my boss." It was Spencer Middleton. "His cell phone and wallet," I answered. "What? No, we don't care about that shit. We can buy more phones. We can get more wallets. You know what I mean?" He was right. I did. "It was an accident," I explained. "We know. We want to make a deal. You give it back, we pretend this whole thing didn't happen." "Can we do that?" "Absolutely." 7:30. Carlos came in for his shift at 7, and I explained the deal to him. He wasn't thrilled, but as I laid it out very clearly, he didn't have a choice. We parked Carlos's Camry behind the gas station near the growth of hand plants, and made a point to stand far enough away as to not get our ankles grabbed. Kiefer's SUV drove up a few minutes later. Spencer was driving. He and Kiefer got out without a word, sized us up, and opened the back of our vehicle. Carlos popped the trunk. Kiefer and I stared at each other, keeping eye contact the whole time while Carlos and Spencer transferred the body from one vehicle to the other. Spencer had a tarp and blanket ready to wrap everything up. When it was over, Kiefer put a hand on my shoulder and whispered in my ear, "You done good." And they left. Carlos started crying as I went back inside the store. It was almost daytime. And that's when the new part-timer was supposed to take over. 8 o'clock. The new part-timer's late, and I'm overdue for a lunch break. I made the best of my extra time here by putting price stickers on all the lawn gnomes, or ringing them up as miscellaneous grocery for $9.99 each. And I've already sold a couple. I'm a really good employee. 8:30. I went to the bathroom and I saw a man standing there with his pants at his ankles. He wore checkered boxers and a cowboy hat. He smiled when he saw me. Simply said, in a somewhat sing-songy voice, "Come on, man. Come on with it." I took the opportunity to ask him something that had been bothering me. "You know, is everything going to be okay?" The bathroom cowboy took a second to think. Then he pulled up his pants. He walked past me, spurs clinking against the bathroom tile. He stopped for a second. When he was right next to me, he said, "I appreciate it." And he left. I honestly have no idea what that means. No, that's the entirety of the receipt paper notes, but I did make a point to continue keeping a journal. I think this will be a healthy way of chronicling the weird events at the gas station. Maybe this will even help out with my condition. I don't know. The next time something strange happens, maybe I'll come back. I'll tell a little more. Until then, I guess this is to be continued. Oh, sorry. Upon further inspection, I realized that some of the scribbles on that receipt paper may have been transcribed incorrectly. I also made some adjustments to the spelling and fixed a couple typos on that. While I was at it, I added another typo just for the observant reader. Lastly, upon the advice of some of my readers, I removed the part where I listed Farmer Jr.'s social security number and address. Also, special thanks to those readers that pointed out that Srega isn't even a Spanish word. See, I asked Carlos about it when he came in for his fourth shift today, but Carlos simply looked at me blankly. He told me that he doesn't speak Spanish. I should begin this by saying that I am truly sorry to anyone who had heard part 3, okay? I had no idea what was going to happen. The agents have assured me that every trace of the story has been removed from the internet and that there's nothing to worry about, okay? If you were unfortunate enough to have heard part 3, I beg you, for your sake, try to forget everything. If you experience nosebleeds, dizziness, migraines, or hallucinations, go immediately to the emergency room. If you have a recurring dream of an island made of song, under no circumstances should you approach or attempt to open that blue door with a painting of a crow on it. Okay, if you didn't hear part 3, then there is no part 3. It doesn't exist. Forget about it. Forget you ever heard of it. By now, you probably already know that there is a shitty gas station at the edge of our small town, and that weird things have been happening there. The city council has personally asked me to stop talking about it, as there have been some astute readers that not only tracked down our small town from the brief descriptions that I've given, but actually come and visited me at work. I heard that one of them has joined the mathematists, and as far as I know, the other 2 are still missing. Once again, I'm sorry. I'm not working right now. It's the first legitimate break I've had since I started writing my stories on receipt paper all that time ago. And the time moves funny here. See? Flowing slow and fast all at once, like molasses out of a shotgun. It's a good thing that I've been keeping a journal. I've got a few moments before my laptop dies, and I think now might be the perfect time to transpose my journal entries before the battery runs out or the blood loss gets me. Right now, it's a race to see what happens first. Before any of you worry, I've already called Tom. He said he's on his way here to give me a ride to the hospital, right after he picks up dinner for the Ledford orphans, John Ben and his little sister. Tom and the other deputies have been taking turns checking on and bringing them food in an attempt to make the whole thing less tragic. They've been living on their own ever since the incident that totally did not happen. And anyone who says otherwise is a damn liar. Yep, there we go again. Off on a tangent. I guess I get to it. And bring up my journal entries while I still can. November 2nd, 2017, 9 p.m. So much has happened since the Halloween incident that we aren't allowed to talk about. I've been much busier than usual dealing with the aftermath as well as the cult. The mathematists have been cleaning out our inventory on a daily basis, planning ahead for some kind of secret event that I only get to hear about in hushed murmurs and whispers. Night is coming earlier, and the weather is getting colder. November 3rd, 2:00 a.m. The man in the trench coat is back. He's standing just outside the gas station door, staring in. He's been there for almost an hour now. Well, on the bright side, I haven't had a customer come in since he showed up. On the not-so-bright side, I can't help but feel that he's trying to put thoughts into my head. He won't be able to, though. I've had way too much practice. Kiefer came in today, before the sun went down. He sat in that booth drinking coffee for a while. Eventually, Spencer Middleton showed up. Spencer had a word with Kiefer, then came storming up to my register, screaming at the top of his lungs. He grabbed the display of lotto scratch-offs and threw it across the room. It was obvious that something had upset him. That's when I took the earplugs out. "Everything okay?" I asked stupidly. I knew damn well everything was never okay. "Did you hear a word I just said?" Spencer asked. I explained to him that I had taken to wearing earplugs in an effort to drown out the sound of screaming that periodically radiates through the air vents. I guess the screams must have stopped a while ago, or maybe I had imagined them. Either way, I didn't need the earplugs anymore. At this point, Tom walked into the store, his white hair looking even whiter than normal. Spencer, I could see, became instantly aware of the deputy's presence. "Where is he?" He half whispered, half growled. "Where's the other one?" "Carlos?" I asked. Spencer sighed. "Sure, Carlos. He's not due for another 20 minutes. When he gets here, tell him we need to have a chat." With that, Spencer Middleton let out a shrill whistle and left the store. Kiefer jumped out of his seat and followed close behind. Tom helped me pick up the mess and put the lotto display back together without asking a single question. I wish more people could be like Tom. When Carlos got to work, he told me that he had been having strange dreams. Dreams of something enormous, living, breathing, underground. The dreams always end the same way, but the gas station collapsed into a giant sinkhole. I told him that Spencer was looking for him. That's when Carlos grew solemn and asked me if he could show me something. In the freezer, behind a stack of boxes labeled non a prior, whatever the hell that means, they've been here as long as I've worked here, there is a moving blanket, and inside that blanket is another Kiefer. My question for Carlos was, "You stole the body back?" He looked at the ground and shook his head sheepishly like a toddler that had just got busted for cooking meth. "You killed another one?" I asked. Carlos explained. "It was an accident." Again. 3 a.m. The man in the trench coat is finally gone. He left claw marks on the glass of the front door. I checked the security footage to confirm my suspicions. He always stays outside the range of the cameras. Why can't I remember what his face looked like? 3:30 a.m. Marlboro was the first customer in the store after the man in the trench coat left. I told him that I was surprised that he was still alive. He mistook this for a compliment and said thank you. I asked him if he was ready for the big event, but then he just stared at me blankly. I could tell that he had no idea what I was talking about, so I filled him in on how I'd put it all together. The unusual cultist activity, the whispers, the buying up of all of our supplies. I could tell that something was about to happen. Marlboro went pale in the face as I was talking, and ran out of the gas station before I could finish, the 99-cent frozen drink still in his hand. I know I should write up an inventory loss slip for the theft, but I just can't bring myself to do it. As hard as it is to explain, there's just something about Marlboro that makes me genuinely feel sorry for him. 6 a.m. I caught myself digging again. I don't know how long I was out there or who was running the store while I was gone. The hole is so deep now that I nearly couldn't climb out of it on my own. I should maybe think about considering the possibility of one day seeing a doctor. 8 a.m. Marlboro is currently crying in the dry storage closet. Through his sobs, I could barely make out the story. Marlboro was sent on some kind of vision quest for the last week and has no idea what the other cultists have been stocking up for. When he went back to the compound earlier tonight, he found the whole place completely deserted. Beds were left unmade. Some plates had food on them. A fire still burning in the fireplace. Everyone's clothes were still in their personal milk crates next to their sleeping bags, but the people, all of the people, were simply gone. Marlboro isn't taking this very well. I have a business to run, so I asked Carlos to help me carry him into the dry storage area. I figured that he could work through some stuff in there, and maybe when he's done, he'll just, I don't know, go home. November 4th, 9 p.m. The exterminators just left. Said they got all the snakes this time. I have my doubts. November 5th, 5 p.m. Kiefer came into the store again today and made some thinly veiled threats. He asked about Carlos too, but I told him I was tired of being the go-between and that if he had business with Carlos, he needed to take it up with Carlos. That's when Kiefer started getting weird. You know this place is just a big experiment. And you're the little mouse. I asked Kiefer to buy something or leave. So he bought a pack of toothpaste. Then started to undress in the store and rub the toothpaste on his naked body. They tell me that something's wrong with your brain. Is that true? I tried to be polite and avert my eyes and answered, yeah. You have some kind of mental condition? I answered again, yeah. That's too bad. See, at this point, Kiefer was completely naked. He walked over to the frozen drink machine and filled a large cup with a sugary red concoction before turning it upside down on top of his head. Then he shook himself violently like a wet dog, flinging bits of cold, sticky debris across everything from the ceiling to the walls, some of it even landing on my face, but I tried not to let him see me flinch. I knew this was all just an attempt to intimidate me, and I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. What is it exactly? He asked as he crossed back to where his pile of clothes waited for him. What? I asked. What is your condition? Paranoia? Schizophrenia? Gay? No, I answered. I don't sleep. You don't sleep? He sounded genuinely interested. Like, ever? I can't fall asleep. I haven't slept a single day since high school. It's a rare genetic condition with no cure and no treatment, and one day it'll kill me. But until then, I handle the effect as best I can. Kiefer nodded. That must be it. That must be why he can't reach you. Why who can't reach me? Right then, Spencer came into the store. He threw a blanket around Kiefer and ushered him out to the waiting SUV. A moment later, he came back into the store and offered me $100 for the security tape for tonight. I wonder what I'll spend my $100 on. 9 p.m. I was beginning to suspect something wasn't quite right in the store. I've been finding empty candy bar wrappers strewn about, security tapes mysteriously deleted, strange noises coming through the walls in the middle of the night when I should be alone. At least, more strange noises than usual. At first, I assumed it was just raccoons. But now I know the truth. Now, I know that Marlboro has been living here for the last 2 days. He just walked out of that supply closet wearing a bathrobe, nodded to me as he grabbed a stack of beef jerky, and went into the bathroom. It had not even occurred to me that Marlboro never left. November 6th, 4 a.m. It finally happened. Yeah, I suppose it was only a matter of time. I know that I should be feeling regret or shame or any other emotions that normally people feel after something like this happened. But all I feel is embarrassed. I came to a couple of hours ago with a shovel in my hand. I had been digging again, and this time I had made some serious progress. The hole was at least 7 feet deep, with steep walls made of loose red clay. It took me a while to realize that I was staring up into an inky black night, peppered with uncountable stars, when some of the bigger celestials started to move. Now, I realized those stars were actually just the soulless red eyes of the mutant raccoons staring down at me over the edge of the hole. Probably looking for food. Shameless beggars. I chucked the shovel out of the hole, and that's when I heard it. Imagine the sound of a butcher's knife hitting a watermelon, like a solid wet black. Imagine the watermelon gurgling and falling over like a sack of potatoes. Oh man, this metaphor is getting kind of away from me here. When I climbed out of the hole, I saw the shovel standing upright, the business end firmly lodged inside the chest of a still twitching Kiefer. The Kiefer was dead before I got to his side. In some kind of final act of defiance, he had turned both of his middle fingers up to me. I felt like the slightest amount of respect for him before I went into a mental state that I can only describe as subdued panic. The first thing I wanted to do was find something to wrap the body in, because surely Spencer Middleton would come for it soon. You know, when I went into the gas station, I was surprised to find that Marlboro had taken it upon himself to work the cash register while I was gone. He was ringing up one of our regulars, Charles, the big fat man that always buys soap and boiled peanuts. I nabbed the tarp off the shelf, took it outside, and that's when I learned something. Kiefer is heavy, like really heavy. Like, I understand that a human body is basically just a meaty, fleshy water balloon full of guts and excrement, but nothing could prepare me for how leaky and gross and heavy a dead man can be. It was only by some miracle that I managed to drag Kiefer through the back door and into the freezer without being seen. It took all my strength to pull the mass behind the boxes and onto the stack with the other 3. When I finally finished, I worked up a sweat. Even the cold of the freezer wasn't enough to keep me cool. As I stood there letting my breath come out and the adrenaline wear off, I took stock of my situation. That's when it dawned on me. There were 4 Kiefers in the freezer with me. 4 Kiefers. Where the hell did the other 2 come from? The freezer door opened and Marlboro entered, dragging a dead Kiefer by the legs. He stopped, made eye contact with me. When he saw the Kiefers at my feet, I said the only thing I could think of. Well, this is awkward. Marlboro and I decided to open a bottle of Strega and have a few drinks. He explained that he had accidentally killed Kiefer a couple times. I totally understood. I mean, the guy was easy to kill. At one point, Carlos came into the freezer to grab a box of cookie dough. Didn't even acknowledge all the Kiefers. Now, shoot. My laptop battery is currently at 2%. It's obvious now that I won't be able to transcribe the rest of my journals before it dies. I don't have the time to tell you how I ended up at the bottom of that hole underneath the store with a broken leg, but I can tell you that I hear someone moving around above me, which is good, because I don't think I'm alone down here. Now, if you're hearing this, it means that I managed to upload my story. If you're not hearing this, then what even are you? Someone just called my name from the top of the precipice. I think it was Carlos. I wonder what happened to Tom. Actually, why didn't Tom ever show up? Come to think of it, I seem to remember Tom didn't survive the Halloween incident. Wait, who the hell have I been talking to this whole time? I promise that if I survive long enough to recharge my battery, I'll come back and tell the rest. Until then, I guess this story is to be continued.
Hey everybody, it's me, Jerry from the gas station at the edge of town. Proud to be the newest member of the team. The owners were so impressed with how I managed to stay inside the store for several days without leaving or going insane that they offered me a full-time position while the regular clerk is out recovering from his leg injury. Happy Monday, y'all. The other guy asked me to do him a small favor while he's getting some much-needed rest and relaxation. He gave me the password to his laptop and detailed instructions to transcribe his journal entries from last week. In exchange, he agreed to keep me on as a full-time assistant after he gets back. I get to learn what to expect on the job through his first-hand documentation, and he gets to continue his weird little blog thing. Now that's what I call a win-win. If I'm being honest, this is probably the best thing that could have happened to me right now. Ever since the program mysteriously dissolved at the Mathematist community, I've been feeling very lost and vulnerable. I've been losing weight and having trouble sleeping, and when I do, I keep having these weird dreams of some enormous being deep below the gas station waiting to devour us all. Clearly, a mistake was made and I was overlooked. If any of my old brothers and sisters are out there and see this post, please contact me. Tell the seniors they forgot me. I'm not mad. I miss you. I love you. Before I get started, some guys in suits came by and suggested that if this blog were going to continue, that I make a PSA. If there is anybody still alive that read the story about what happened here on Halloween, don't wait for symptoms to start. Please go to the nearest emergency room or call the Center for Disease Control and tell them you are experiencing the effects of Rommel's syndrome. Anyway, back to the journals. I'm going to do my best because the guy's handwriting is awful, but here's the parts I could read. 7 p.m. The man in the trench coat was standing out back when I went to take out the garbage tonight. I don't know why the man in the trench coat keeps visiting my store or why I've never gotten a good look at him. He was standing at the tree line just beyond the dumpsters, staring as he ever did. Tonight, I stared back. The hinge of his jaw began halfway up his face where his nose should have been, the edges pulled back to either ear in a skeletal grin. His tiny, milky white eyes were beads behind the oily black hairline that hung down straight in bangs all the way to his cheek jowl. His impossibly wide mouth bisected the head between greasy hair and wet flesh. Drool, I would assume. We stood there, 15 feet apart, staring at one another for what might have been 10 seconds or 10 minutes until finally the man in the trench coat turned away. His legs bent funny. In a way that human legs shouldn't be able to bend, and he landed on all fours before galloping off into the woods. I don't know if I've seen the last of the man in the trench coat. Holy shit, did you guys read that? This is some crazy shit. Sorry, Jerry again. I promise I'm not going to do the running commentary thing. I just had to say, Jesus, you know? This is some weird stuff. I mean, I remember him telling me a couple weeks ago to go outside and talk to a man in a trench coat. I'm super glad I didn't now. What the hell? Okay, that's it. I'm done. Back to the transcriptions. The next page is soaked in blood and completely unreadable. I'm going to have to skip that part. Hundreds and hundreds of them. She had never seen so many in one place before, not even in her dreams. Before she left, she told me that I would see her again. Was that supposed to be a warning or a flirtation? 3:23 a.m. It's a quieter night than I'm used to. The package from yesterday afternoon still sits on the counter where I left it. The label is made out to me with a return address I don't recognize. The rectangular parcel is wrapped like a Christmas present with red and yellow stripes, and it feels heavy. I would say it's just the right size for a dead cat. I can't think of any realistic reason I shouldn't open the package, but there is something in the back of my mind telling me that to open this would be tantamount to opening Pandora's box. That the contents of this little parcel will irrevocably change the course of my life in a way that may have seemed impossible before. I feel like this box is full of butterflies ready to create tsunamis, and I'm just not sure I'm ready for that yet. I think I'm going to teach Marlboro how to clean the drink machines. 3:47 a.m. Marlboro's passed out in a hammock in the supply closet. I think he finished that bottle on his own. I guess I'll go and clean the drink machines myself. 5:45 a.m. The hand plants are growing faster than I had anticipated. They are now past the elbows, almost to the shoulders. I saw that the crop had caught a curious coyote that got too close. It was not pretty. I also noticed that Rocco was still alive. I caught him sitting on the roof, tossing food to the crop of hand plants. This is why they're growing too fast. They're eating way too much. If this gets out of control, I may have to torch this crop just like the others. I don't want to. It sends shivers down my spine whenever I hear the way they scream. 7:30 a.m. Carlos came in for his morning shift looking pretty terrible. He filled up on coffee and told me that he hadn't been sleeping too well. The bad dreams have been keeping him from getting a restful night. I wonder if I should tell Carlos about my condition. He asked about the gift wrap package sitting on the counter. I told him that it came with the post yesterday and I didn't know who it was from. He asked if I was going to open it, and I told him that I had a bad feeling and pretty much decided to never, ever open it. 10 a.m. I decided to open the package. Without any fanfare or drum roll, I'll just tell you that what I found inside was a brand new laptop computer. I've never owned my own laptop before, and the only computer that ever belonged to me was a crappy little Tandy 1000 that I put together as a kid. I've always used the library computer lab or the browser on my phone to access the internet. This could be a game changer. The box also contained a signal repeater and some other gizmos. I know this is crazy, but I think I may actually be able to access the internet from the gas station now. There was a handwritten note at the bottom of the package. Hello. I left a comment on your page. There's something I want to tell you. I'm enjoying reading these stories you're writing, but I think if you actually sit down and write out one story at a time, that you will get a lot more upvotes. But it right now seems like a lot of half stories thrown together. I think you'd do great if you actually write out a whole story at a time. I bet you really could get a lot of upvotes and attention. It gets kind of confusing right now. Maybe start with when you got there and work your way up to now. I bet that would be super awesome. I'm so fascinated, but a little muddled as well. I can tell you have a great talent for writing, but I just thought maybe I'd offer a suggestion to help. Please do not take offense. It's just something I was thinking. Hope all is going well for you." Great. Another one of my readers tracked me down. I'm going to have to figure out how people keep finding me and put a stop to this. Thank you, whoever you are, for the laptop. I'm definitely keeping it. 10:15 a.m. I turned on the Wi-Fi card and noticed that for some reason there are dozens of secured networks around the gas station, most of which have 4 or 5 bars. The names for their networks are pure gobbledygook, like this one: 1E7, G7, C7, TA11, GUY 23233 1324. Who the hell is transmitting Wi-Fi out here? 11 a.m. A man came into the store to buy a gas can a couple hours ago. I didn't think much of it at the time, but then he came back in asking if we could help him out with something down the road. I never got his name, but he was a big guy, tan skin and a thick beard. He said he was having car problems. I told him I wasn't a car guy, but he insisted that he didn't need a car guy. He just needed someone else to see what he was seeing. Marlboro agreed to watch the counter while Carlos and I followed the bearded man down the hill and around the curve, close to the spot where Carlos saw that thing in the woods. He couldn't remember what happened that night. After we got everything sorted out with Spencer and things started to go back to normal, I asked Carlos what it was that he saw in the woods that sent him running in such a careless panic, but he just shook his head and said he didn't know. The mind is a funny thing, and memories aren't the most reliable. I realize that I'm not the only person from the gas station with a list of try and forget stories. The man's car was parked on the side of the road, close to the same spot that Kiefer's SUV was broken down. "So my car started acting funny," the guy said as we neared his vehicle. I began to wonder why we had walked this whole way when our own vehicle would have been quite useful in a case of a dead battery or, random bear attack. The guy kept going. I pulled over onto the side of the road when my electricals all started going haywire. I killed the engine, then when I tried to turn it over again, nada. I could see at this point that the hood was open. The man was driving a big black SUV similar to the one Kiefer owned, but newer and shinier. I don't see what's so weird about that. You need us to call a tow, or the man cut Carlos off. Rudely, I might add. I popped the hood, but everything was in order. I thought it maybe just needed some gas, so I went up to the station. When I got back, I saw this. We rounded the front of the car and we saw the this he was being so vague about. A small oak tree, maybe 4 or 5 years old, was growing up from the ground beneath the car, through the engine, and stretched upwards at least 9 feet. The trunk of the tree had swallowed a decent portion of the engine, and from the looks of it, the car had been parked there for years. "Interesting," I said. "And you're sure that this wasn't here when you started driving?" Before he could answer, he spun his head around and looked at the forest. "You boys hear that?" he asked. We stood still and listened.
It's okay if you don't love me. Assalamualaikum.
Hey.
Hey.
You can't speak.
Irrate me. Irrate me. Irrate me. Please, 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 please. Da 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 da.
Jesus. Jesus.
Rat-a-tat. Rat-a-tat.
Don't talk to me.
Rat-a-tat, rat-a-tat, rat-a-tat. 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 Rat-a-tat, rat-a-tat, rat. Tat. Tat, tat, tat. Rat-a-tat, tat, tat. Rat-a-tat, tat, tat.
No one's in here. You're speaking to yourself.
Who? What?
Weirdo.
Can someone irrate me?
Shut the fuck up, whore.
I said ear rape. Yeah, thank you. You freaking horny bitch.
Ew, shut the fuck up. You're 11. Get the fuck off this server before I have you banned.
I'm not even
Margaret.
11. What are you talking
He
about?
left aggravated. Where's Zellstar?
Haha, you can't speak. Na 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 na.
No, 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 no.
Na 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 na. Zellstar, how does it feel to not speak? Na
Ah,
na 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 na. Let's throw
you
rocks at him.
loser. Can't talk.
Well, why do you disrespect my tribe?
Oh my god.
He's not doing this. Run away. Run away before it's
Getting a
too late.
girl on Discord sucks. What the heck?
Not
I hate
disrespect my tribe again. Do you understand me?
It does. I'm a girl as well, you know. I'm
Yeah,
so
it sucks.
girly. I'm a
Everyone
girl.
calls me a 10-year-old or a thought.
Mhm.
Automatically think that you're not a man, even if you are a man.
Hey, Brennan. He got muted as well.
I hate vegan.
that's yeah. That's probably why.
Oh my
Yo.
god.
Shabuska, bleh, bleh, bleh. Anyway, sorry. I'm a bit hyper.
Uska.
I'm looking at my wall. Right? Do you want to know what my walls look like? You ready for this?
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
They've all got holes in them.
Wow.
I have Tourette's, by the way. So if I got a friend request. Wow.
You know what? I don't have Tourette's, but I have tics. and they're really annoying.
do
So
too. Oh my
I
God.
understand. I understand your pain.
I get horrible ticks, like, seriously.
Well,
Whoa.
at least you don't have a tick that makes you pick up a gun and shoot people. I guess that's how you
the
could put it.
person I tried to shoot is myself.
Oh, same. But I don't have guns in my country.
Oh, damn. Damn.
Less. I wanted to join this server because I got banned off on another server, and this server's kind of boring, and there's not very interesting people. Just people that irate.
What the
And there's like 100 people. But that's everywhere. It's
Yes,
pretty
can you guys
cool.
hear me?
Thanks. We're just bullying Zellstar.
What the heck?
Whoa, he left. Why are we in a rape channel? I don't know.
I don't know. It's not even ear rape.
I know. I think it's when you get sent here. Joey, this person muted me. Tell him to unmute me, I think he muted me.
He muted you.
Yeah.
I don't
think so.
Oh yeah, I muted Malik.
Yeah, but I'm not even. Thanks.
Ah, no problem, man. I got you, nigga.
By the way,
Are you Zayn Malik or?
No, I'm not. I'm just Malik, right?
Oh.
Not Malik, just Malik. Thanks. I don't like being.
Malik.
that sounds okay. It makes me sound like posh.
No.
Oh, it's
Hi. Jesus, motherfucker.
The fuck did you say in the middle of shit?
That's your fucking nice. Your hair is.
Whoa, that's kind of fucking gay, bro. I'm out of this shit.
Yeah.
It sounds like he has a sound. It sounds like he's got a soundboard. He says the same thing.
Soundboard.
He's not Jesus, he cursed. What the fuck?
Holly, that's a fucking lemonhead. Oh my.
Lemonhead.
Lemon.
Do you like lemons?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute. What's your favorite type of lemon? I like the
I don't
small.
care. That Southern Belle was. Oh, I can't.
I like
She was Southern. She was Southern. You could tell. She said, "My mama."
like-
I'm like,
My mama raised me like this.
I like the small lemons. You know, the cute little lemons where you can.
catch me upstairs.
I like the sour lemon.
You know the small little lemons you could just give a pound on the head. The small lemons you could just pound on the head, and you're just like, oh.
Please shut up.
I just muted the gay light, ling ling.
Not even doing
Yeah, I was.
doing Australia.
Yeah. I like Lemon Grab. He's such a Lemon Hope. Yes, yes, Lemon Hope can get a good pat from me.
Maybe that's what it is.
Good
Who can
boy.
do the voice? Can you do lemon?
He's a good small bean. I'm actually so sad tonight. Oh. Huh?
I said it's kind of eerie, you know.
Do it again.
Just a little bit.
Did you mute Gay Ling Ling?
No?
Oh, well, I did, because, well, it's kind of noisy.
but I couldn't hear anything. No, I answered. Carlos shrugged. You boys know what an anglerfish is? The bearded man asked as he walked to the back door and opened it. Yeah, I guess, I answered. The bearded man pulled up a secret compartment from beneath the floorboard and retrieved a large automatic rifle. Now, I'm not a gun guy, and I can't tell you what kind of gun it was, but it was big and impressive and cool looking. The guy checked the clip and clicked something on the gun that I guess could have been the safety. Again, I'm not a gun guy, but it sounded super cool. Carlos put a hand on my shoulder and slowly backed away from the man with the gun, pulling me with him. But the man didn't seem to mind us one bit. He was focused on whatever he heard in the woods. If I'm right, you boys have an anglerfish in them woods. It's putting something out there to lure me in, make me think I'm hearing something that I'm not. Then, when I go looking for the one thing, bam, it attacks. Oh, like a siren? I asked. The man looked at me over his shoulder with a smirk and said, Yeah, like a siren. Y'all may want to get out of here. This could get dangerous. Don't worry about me. I've dealt with these things before. I'll be fine. The man pointed his gun and marched into the woods while Carlos and I made our way back to the gas station. 2 p.m. It's time for me to go home. I haven't used the laptop yet, but maybe tomorrow I'll start to type up these journals. November 8th. 6 p.m. It's getting dark so early these days. I noticed that the bearded man's SUV is still at the bottom of the hill with a tree growing through it. I would not call that a good sign. 11 p.m. I burned the rest of the hand plants. I finally know what's going on. A long time ago, I noticed what looked like strange mushrooms growing in a patch near the dumpster behind the gas station. I didn't think much about them, except that it was strange that Rocco's brood wouldn't go near them. When I took a closer look, I could have sworn that they looked like baby fingers poking out of the ground. As the weather got warmer, I kept an eye on the crops. They started getting longer and looking more and more distinguishably similar to human fingers. I swear they even started growing fingernails. Sometimes I would see them bend at the digits to squash a bug that wandered too close. Eventually, the mushrooms started sprouting leaves, and the finger sections continued to stretch out, creating what could only be described as hands, human hands. They would ball up into fists during the daytime and open up in the moonlight. I dug one of them up one day when we were really slow at work. I called Farmer Jr. to ask for his professional opinion. To the untrained eye, the hand plant looked just like a regular human hand, smaller than an adult's, but larger than a child's, adolescent, teenager maybe. At the wrist, it turned into a gnarled root that smelled like sassafras, and throughout the plant, tiny leaves were sprouting. Farmer Jr. stood in the gas station looking it over for a while before asking me if we had any more of those things. I lied and told him no. I asked the owners what they wanted me to do. They thought it over for a couple days, then they told me to keep them. I think they expected to be able to make some money off them somehow, but eventually everyone forgot they were there. Everyone but me. And Farmer Jr., of course. I was thinking about the bearded man when I first heard the sound of a baby crying somewhere outside. I was alone in the store, and my first instinct was not the heroic one that most people may have had, to run outside and see where the poor baby was. My first instinct was more callous and rational and in the form of a question. How the hell did a baby get way out here without me hearing it coming? Something wasn't right. The sound of the cries, which I could deduce were coming from the tree line, were getting louder and louder and more desperate. I looked around for Marlboro, but couldn't find him anywhere. If I was going to investigate the potential forest baby, I was going to have to do it alone. I remember the bearded man hearing the siren call of that thing he called an anglerfish. I remember Carlos's sound of crunching in the strega. And absolutely no part of me believed that I would be safe if I went into the woods, or that there was really a crying baby out there. But what if? I grabbed a flashlight and went out back. The crying seemed to be moving deeper deeper into the forest, quickly, like the crying baby were being carried off by something that didn't have to stop and move around trees or physical barriers. I walked into the forest just far enough to find the last thing I ever expected to find. It seems that the hand plants had extended slightly further than the little patch outside the gas station. Those plants that I had been watching and burning whenever they got too aggressive were not as controlled as I previously believed, because out here, just a few steps into the woods, was a hand plant that I had missed, that I had never trimmed or culled or burned, that was left free to grow as large and wild as it possibly could. Out here was a hand plant that had grown so large it had fallen over. It had grown past the shoulder. It had grown its own head and torso and crotch and legs. Out here was a full human body covered in tiny leaves, huddled on the ground and attached to the soil by thick talons of brown roots. And the weirdest part of all, the body was one that I recognized. The body, the fully grown hand plant, was Kiefer. I don't know what possessed me to touch him. Maybe I just wanted to make sure that he was real, as if touching him would prove that one way or another. When I did, his eyes opened, and he cracked a smile. He could not move. The roots had him firmly stuck in place, but this Kiefer plant could talk. And talk he did. We stayed out there talking for over an hour. I won't go into everything the Kiefer plant said, but I will say this. There is something under the gas station, something big and powerful, something plotting, and I've been working for years in a cloud of this dark god's farts. I felt extra terrible setting the fully developed Kiefer plant on fire after I burned the rest of the crop of hand plants, but honestly, what choice did I have? When I got back to the gas station, Spencer was waiting for me. He knew I knew, and I knew he knew I knew. I was halfway expecting what came next, but not expecting him to enjoy himself quite so much. Spencer locked the front doors, then proceeded to beat the crap out of me. I'd like to say I got in a few good hits as well, but that would be a huge lie. I don't think I laid a single finger on him. Although, I did mess his knuckles up pretty good with my face, so I have that going for me. Spencer dragged me across the gas station to the hallway past the bathrooms, past the walk-in cooler, to that big strange door that I had only just noticed a couple weeks ago. If it were possible for me to pass out, I'm sure I would be unconscious right now. "Why are you doing this?" I asked as he banged the door 3 times. There was a sound from the other side, and then Spencer yelled, "Open up, it's me!" The door cracked open, and Spencer dragged me into a room I had never seen before. It looked like an old office. There was a desk next to a wall of monitors with security feeds from all over the store and the perimeter. Security feeds from cameras I never knew existed. In the middle of the room was a large hole that looked like it had been created with a team of jackhammers. "It's time for you to meet my boss," Spencer said as he dragged me to the edge of the hole. "Kiefer?" I said, to which Spencer let out a hearty laugh. "No, not Kiefer. My boss put Kiefer out there and hired me to watch him. My boss is much bigger than some idiot politician." I half expected Spencer to go into the cliché movie villain exposition rant, but instead he sparted me right into the hole. "I think my leg is broken. At least I assume that's what the bone poking out means, but hey, I'm no doctor. I would be really worried right now if it weren't for the fact that I stole Spencer's cell phone in the scuffle. Just as I expected, Spencer had the same network as Kiefer, which means he somehow had service. I put in a call to Tom's direct number, so I'm sure he'll be along shortly. Until he gets here, I'm just passing the time updating my journals. Somebody just dropped the laptop into this hole with me. Maybe it was Spencer. Maybe he thinks I'm dead. Maybe I am. Again, I'm not a doctor. Whoever it was, I think I might have heard the sound of boot spurs clicking against the tile as he walked away. I guess I'll boot this thing up and start transcribing my journal before it's too late. Okay, so this is the last of his journals. You're probably wondering to yourself, where was Jerry while Spencer was beating the crap out of poor old Jack? Well, I had gone into town to see a movie. Yes, I went and watched Thor Ragnarok. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It is awesome. I guess I'm lucky I went when I did. Otherwise, this Spencer guy might have tossed me into that hole as well. I was the one that found Jack. When I came back to the gas station, I couldn't find anyone anywhere. So I went searching until I noticed that door at the edge of the hall cracked open slightly. I also found a really poorly made bomb behind the register, but it didn't take long to disassemble. You can thank the mandatory bomb building classes at the mathematist program for that. No big deal, just me being my typical heroic self. I just caught myself digging.
Recovering from injury sucks. Recovering from an injury when you can't fall asleep sucks worse. Recovering from an injury when you can't fall asleep while simultaneously being hunted by a sociopathic lackey of a dark god with a personal vendetta against you sucks even worse. What sucks even more worse is having to do all of the above and still being called into work because, as the owner puts it, the new guy is a complete and total moron with willful and malicious idiocy that borders on the criminal. And so, here I am, against the doctor's advice, at the shitty gas station at the edge of town, only a little worse for wear. What's really incredible is that I've only been back for 1 day and there's already a body count. More on that later. My right leg is in a cast from the ankle to thigh, and I've elected to use crutches because, unsurprisingly, the gas station is not wheelchair accessible. The cast has several signatures and messages, which is very strange because I have no memory of anyone signing it. But that could just be a result of the pain meds. Looking down now, I can see that Carlos scrawled this message. Try and stay out of trouble. See. There's also a message in red crayon. Jerry was here. A few signatures scribbled in Sharpie, and a little further up my leg I have to pull my pants way up to read it. This note. Well, that's annoyingly cryptic. I would check the tape logs to see who I let get so close to my delicate area, but the owners have every camera in the place removed, so I guess there was something about finding that secret room full of security camera feeds to bring personal privacy into the public discussion. I feel like the act of removing all the security cameras was a bit of an overreaction, especially with Spencer still out there. The police took a statement and confiscated the remains of the bomb. They're taking this whole thing very seriously, and an arrest warrant is out for Spencer Middleton, should he ever show up again. As for Kiefer, things get a little more, well, interesting. See, the police were unable to find any evidence that he ever even existed. He had no property in his name, no driver's license, no public record of any kind. The only thing ever linking him to this town was a grainy picture in an old yearbook photo. It would seem that Kiefer was living off the grid ever since he graduated high school. And now that Spencer's attempt to blow up the gas station failed, Kiefer has suspended his election campaign and simply disappeared. The sheriff's been sending a new deputy, Arnold, out to check on me at least twice a day. Arnold isn't from around here, which is probably why he agreed to replace Tom as the new gas station babysitter. He's around 6'2", dark skin with mustache thick enough to plant a yard flamingo in. He has eyes that constantly telegraph the statement, "Knock that nonsense off." I've yet to see him smile. I don't know if Arnold will become the next Tom or the next Spencer. Right now, he could go either way. Arnold was the one that dropped me off at work today. I'm not supposed to get back behind a steering wheel for a while, which is fine, I guess. I mean, it's not like I'm going on any road trips anytime soon. On the way to work, we passed the SUV with the man with the beard, the one staked in place on the side of the road by the tree growing up through its engine. I asked Arnold about it, but he just shrugged it off and said I shouldn't worry myself with other people's business. I asked him about the owner of the vehicle. Arnold said that they think that he got lost in the woods, just like the other hikers last fall. A search and rescue effort was underway, and he was confident that they would find him, quote, one one way or the other. After Arnold dropped me off today, I went about my regular shift-starting duties. I reconciled Marlboro's till, not at all surprised to see that he was somehow $150 over, or that the surplus was entirely in $1 coins. I logged all the invoices that had piled up while I was out, then I emptied the trash can. I was hoping that I might run into the cowboy, but the only thing in the men's restroom was an obese Hispanic trucker, punishing the toilet and surrounding air with an unholy fury that deserved its own scary story. The sun was starting to go down when I hobbled out to the dumpster, balancing garbage bags against my crutches, probably looking like a baby deer along the walk. Yeah, that deer was drunk, two-legged, carrying several bags of garbage. The scorched earth near the dumpster was the same as I'd left it, blackened down to the subsoil, but somewhere just past the
Boo. Boo. Boo.
Boo. Zellstarwing. Boo. Said beaming face with smiling eyes.
Nah, not cool.
Good morning.
Oh, morning. It's 8 a.m. right now for me.
Sure it is, buddy.
Legit.
My stomach hurt. My stomach hurt. My stomach hurt.
He gets his monster stuff, yeah. And then he sells monster.
Hi. Joshua.
Okay, bye, Zellstar.